2023, roughly 400,000 young Koreans between the ages of 15 and 29 were classified as NEET, not in employment, education, or training. That number sounds like an economic statistic, but behind it is something stranger and more troubling. These are not all people who failed to find work. Many of them stopped looking. They stopped dating. They stopped planning. A generation that grew up inside one of Asia's most relentlessly ambitious societies has, in significant numbers, quietly stepped off the track entirely. The question is not whether this is happening. The data confirms it is. The real question is why a society built on striving produced so many people who decided striving was no longer worth it. Statistics Korea reported that in 2023, the economically inactive youth population, those neither working nor seeking work, reached approximately 1.4 million when broader definitions are applied beyond the strict NEET count. The Korea Employment Information Service found that a growing share of these individuals cite psychological burnout or a sense of futility, not a lack of opportunity, as their reason for withdrawing. South Korea's youth unemployment rate has hovered around 5 to 6% in recent years, which sounds manageable. But the official figure masks a much larger group of young people in precarious part-time roles or simply no longer counted. According to the OECD, South Korea's youth underemployment and inactivity combined places it among the more stressed peer economies in the developed world. Meanwhile, Korea's total fertility rate fell to 0.72 in 2023, the lowest ever recorded for any OECD country. And demographers at Statistics Korea directly link declining family formation to young people's economic disengagement. These numbers are not isolated. They are connected. Korea compressed decades of economic growth into a single generation, and it built an education and hiring system designed for scarcity. University entrance exam, the Sunyoung, function as a single annual referendum on a young person's entire future. Preparation begins in elementary school. Private tutoring academies known as hagwons consume a significant share of household income across the country. Yet despite all that preparation, Korea's graduate labor market has grown increasingly unforgiving. Large conglomerates in the cables hire in narrow annual cohorts, and the gap between stable employment there and precarious work everywhere else is enormous. The Bank of Korea has noted that labor market duality, the divide between secure insiders and exposed outsiders, is among the most pronounced in the OECD. Young people do the math. The cost of competing, financially, psychologically, in years of life, is enormous. The probability of reaching a stable outcome is, for many, genuinely low. And so some make a rational, if devastating, calculation. The game is not worth playing. Researchers at the Korea Development Institute have described this dynamic as a failure of the return on effort, not a failure of effort itself. The consequences extend well beyond the individuals who withdraw. Korea's working-age population is already shrinking, and the National Pension Service has warned that the current pension system faces serious funding pressure as fewer workers support a rapidly aging population. When young people disengage from employment, they also tend to disengage from family formation. The fertility data makes that link starkly clear. There is also a mental health dimension that is difficult to quantify but impossible to ignore. The Korean Society for Preventive Medicine and multiple public health surveys have documented rising rates of depression and social isolation among adults in their 20s and 30s. Online communities have formed around the concept of sampo, literally meaning giving up 3 things, originally referring to dating, marriage, and children. That list has since expanded in popular usage to include homeownership, social relationships, and hope itself. A society cannot sustain productivity or solidarity when a significant share of its youngest adults have concluded that participation carries no reward. The cost is not abstract, it compounds every year. Korea is not alone in this. Japan's hikikomori, people who withdraw entirely from social participation, have been documented for decades. China coined the term tang ping, meaning lying flat, to describe a similar disengagement among its youth. In Southern Europe, the NEET crisis following the 2008 financial crash left lasting marks on an entire cohort. What Korea shows, perhaps more clearly than anywhere else, is what happens when a high-pressure achievement culture is not matched by sufficient economic mobility. Young people are not lazy. They are conducting a cost-benefit analysis and increasingly concluding that the costs are real and the benefits are uncertain. The lesson for any society watching this is direct. When effort is systematically decoupled from reward, people stop making the effort. That is not a moral failure. It is a logical response to a broken signal. How Korea responds, through labor reform, housing policy, or a fundamental rethinking of what success means, will likely determine whether this generation is lost or simply waiting.